What is up, awesome peeps? Brent McCluskey here with the Electrified Reviews, and today we are reviewing the Rattan Challenger Plus electric bike, and we are very excited to review this bike for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we are doing a giveaway on this bike, which is fantastic. I feel like perfect timing right before the holidays, so very excited to be able to host another giveaway for you awesome peeps for electric bike. Also, this bike has some really interesting tech, some really interesting battery and range claims from the company, which we are going to put to the test. So without any further ado, let's roll the B-roll. All right, awesome peeps. Again, this is the Rattan Challenger Plus electric bike. Some interesting stuff to go over with this bike. First and foremost, this thing starts at $999.99, or let's just call it $1,000 even, because it's a lot easier to say. They've got Ipass technology. Yeah, we'll get into that later, but basically it's supposed to like radically increase the range on their bikes. So yeah, interesting stuff. Now, as far as frame sizes and frame colors go on this bike, this is the only frame size they have. What you see is what you get right here. Frame colors, it looks like it's gonna be this same black color with different accents. You can do red, I think like blue, green, and yellow, but I think the green and the blue, I think, are sold out right now for that color option, at least for the time of this review. But something that's very cool about this bike, or I guess about the company Rattan, is even for this price point of $1,000, they're offering a 2-year comprehensive warranty and a 3-year warranty on the battery, which is honestly, that's just kind of pretty incredible. Not something we're used to seeing, especially on bikes at this price point. It's typically maybe like 3 to 6 months for bikes around $1,000 or so, but 2 years is really, really generous, and 3 years for the battery, even longer for the battery, is honestly, it's just kind of incredible. So really, really nice warranty for this. And honestly, that's kind of important, I think. Good warranties are important for direct order bikes because, yeah, you may not have like a store or a shop nearby where if something goes wrong, you can service it. So having the warranty is just kind of like a nice feeling of security. If something goes wrong, Rattan will either ship out a new part or they'll figure out a way to fix it for you. So good stuff. All right, so let's dive into the specs here on the Challenger Plus. We'll start right in the back with the motor here. This is gonna be a 350 watt hub motor from a company called Reebok. That's what I believe it's from. That's what there's no branding on this motor right here, but on the website there's a photo of this motor and it's got a sticker with the name Reebok. And anyways, we tried to research that company Reebok because we haven't heard this one before for the motor. Wasn't able to find anything. But apparently the stats for this motor are 350 watts nominal, 500 watts peak with 45 newton meters of torque, which brings this bike up to a top speed of 20 miles per hour. Now, the display here does have a wattage output, which I'll show you guys here later on. So, during our testing, we were able to see exactly how much wattage this motor was spitting out. Was it able to sustain 350 watts? Was it able to sustain 500 peak watts for like extended periods of time? And the answer is, yeah, this motor was able to stay at around 400, 450 watts for longer, I don't want to say hill climbs, but for just kind of longer hill ascents. So yeah, we did maybe like a mile hill climb on this thing, and the motor was able to stick at about 400, 450 watts of output, which is pretty good. Yeah, I was not really expecting that, to be honest with you. Now, 20 miles per hour, that's what the company says the top speed is here, but we were able to cruise about 22 miles per hour on flat ground with the throttle only. So you can reach that top speed of 20 miles per hour with the throttle there or with the pedal assist. And for this bike, the Challenger Plus, the pedal assist is going to be a cadence sensor, which you can kind of see right here on this side. This is gonna have a cadence sensor, probably gonna be 12 magnets inside of this little housing right here. Cadence sensors are fine. you know, look, we don't prefer cadence sensors. We prefer torque sensors because they're just more responsive. Cadence sensors have a little bit of a start and stop delay from the time that I start and stop pedaling to the time that the motor actually, you know, activates and deactivates. So that can create a little bit of lag. And it can kind of make it feel like the bike is working, you know, for you instead of like with you, if that makes sense. You know, torque sensors are just way more responsive. It measures the torque that you put on the cranks, so you get like a corresponding output of power, depending on how hard you pedal. You know, so you don't really get that with the cadence sensors. But look, it gets the job done, and at $1,000, honestly, I've never seen a torque sensor on a bike at $1,000 so, you know, that's honestly something that we would expect. So not a big deal. Just want to point out really kind of every little bit about this bike. Now let's go on next to the battery here, because this is probably the most interesting thing about this bike. So the battery itself is going to be locking and removable. It's got a little quick indicator you can check. Oops. Right here, just push this little button. Hopefully you can see it. Well, it's kind of dim, but yeah, there should be some lights that illuminate right there. Right here on this side is the key port. Throw the key in there, give it a twist, yank the battery off, and yeah, it's good to go. There's no USB port on this, so you can't use this as like a battery bank, which is a bummer. That would be kind of cool to see that in a future version maybe. You know, really there's no reason not to throw those on there. It just kind of, it increases the functionality of the batteries, right? So you know, we always want to see a USB port if possible, but not a big deal it doesn't have it. Now, the battery itself, 36 volt, 10.4 amp hour battery. Now, Rattan says they have something called Ipass technology, which is like intelligent pedal assist something or other, right? And what they say is that with this tech, it's basically they're reprogramming the motor. They are able to use the motor to not only be more efficient, apparently they say it's supposed to be like 83% more efficient, and then it's supposed to actually give you like 50% more usage out of the battery. But apparently it can also passively collect like kinetic energy when you go downhill, and basically like regenerative braking, and feed that back into the battery, which is interesting because when we rode it, I didn't feel like it was dragging on the downhills. You know, it didn't feel like it was putting juice back in the motor. And they say that Rattan claims that the max range for the throttle only on this is going to be 50 miles. Max range of the pedal assist is 80 miles. That's a huge claim for a 10.4 amp hour battery. And I mean, look, you could say, yeah, maybe you could get higher mileage because 26-inch by 2.1-inch tires. I mean, they're not super wide. I mean, they are knobby. They're not slick, so it's going to give you a little bit more drag here. Make it a little bit less efficient. The suspension is gonna make it a little bit less efficient. You're gonna lose energy when it transfers to the suspension there. But all that being said, what's interesting is we rode this bike for about 6.3 miles before we started filming. And we checked the battery display. It's actually a percentage indicator, so you can see exactly how much is left, and it still had 83% battery left. And we only used the throttle. I did battery left, and we only pedal like pretty much at all during that part, because that's what they said, 50 miles for the pedal assist or for the throttle only, right? So anyways, if you multiply that, it'd be about 6 times 5 or about 30 miles. You know, if we were to extrapolate that short test, go the whole way, it'd be about 30 miles with the battery or with the throttle only, which is, it's weird. Like that's definitely a lot more than normal. So I don't want to say definitively because we didn't do a full test, but it seems like whatever they're doing with this Ipass tech, again, just like this Reebok motor, we tried to look into the Ipass tech. We weren't able to really find any information, like any details about exactly how it's working here. Maybe it's like a trade secret. I don't know, but long story short is it seems like, yeah, the range on this is probably going to be pretty good. I mean, 50 miles, I mean, probably not. Realistically, you'll probably get somewhere around 30. With a pedal assist, you might get, I don't know, maybe double that, maybe 60, which is still pretty good for 10.4 amp hour battery. So yeah, that's a really cool part about that bike. So I do like that. Okay, for the derailleur down here, we've got a Shimano Tourney derailleur 7-speed entry-level component. Gets the job done. We talked about this before. Derailleurs, for the most part, they don't matter a whole lot for electric bikes. I mean, yes, higher end derailleurs are always going to be better, but for a bike like this, where this is not like a serious off-road, you know, trail warrior. This is just kind of like a chill, like little urban commuter, city bike, neighborhoods, light trail, stuff like that. So you're not going to be hammering through the gears. So Shimano Tourney, Shimano Altus, Shimano Alivio, honestly, it doesn't really matter. One of the biggest things you're gonna get with a better derailleur on a bike like this is just a little bit smoother shifting, but it doesn't really matter. It's a hub motor. Yeah, saving a little bit of weight. It doesn't matter. So that's a fine component here. On the handlebars, it's going to be matched with a Shimano SIS index trigger shifter, 7-speed. Now, this is one component where if they were able to upgrade something, it'd be cool if they were able to upgrade this to like maybe some actual trigger shifters, because these Shimano SIS index thumb shifters, they're not very comfortable to use. Like, look at, I mean, it's like, I don't know, there's just a lot of motion your hand has to go through. You have to kind of like release your grip on the handlebar. So it's not my favorite, you know, shifter. I'd rather see some sort of trigger shifter, but again, $1,000, these are gonna be entry-level components, and that's fine, honestly. But I gotta be nitpicky, right? This does have an integrated headlight, and it's got kind of like a magnifying lens type thing in there. The beam pattern is, it's not bad. It's an all right light, not super bright, not a great pattern, but it's not bad. You can definitely increase visibility with this, so people are gonna see you if you have this on, and you can use it to illuminate your path a little bit. But like we say most of the time, 9 times out of 10, if you do wanna ride this bike at night, we would definitely suggest getting an aftermarket, you know, headlight, throw it on your handlebars, throw it on your helmet, whatever you wanna do, just to get more lumens out on the trail, right? Suspension itself, I think these are kind of like no-name suspension, but they're just rebranded with Rattan. They threw their name on there. About 80 millimeters of travel, 60 to 80. Wasn't able to find any specs on these. They're spring suspension, no preload adjust, no lockout. So, you know, kind of what you see is what you get here for the suspension. Now, the max load capacity for this bike is going to be about 330 pounds. So, you know, I weigh 180 pounds, and if somebody weighs 330 pounds, it's obviously like a pretty big difference in weight there. And the suspension is going to act a lot differently, you know, so you can't fine tune that depending on like your riding style and how much, you know, each individual rider weighs, which again it's fine, because this is not really meant for, again, in our opinion, this is not like a huge off-road machine. You can take this on trails, you can take this on stuff like this, you know, no problem, but just no jumps, no nothing too serious, right? For braking power on this, we're gonna have mechanical disc brakes, 160 millimeter rotors in the front and the rear. And again, I think these are kind of like no-name brakes. I'm not really sure what these are. I think the name on here says Field. I personally have not seen those before. Yeah, they work fine. It gives ample stopping power. I wouldn't say it's overpowered or anything. Disc brakes are always going to be better than V brakes. I mean, almost always, 9 times out of 10, right? I can't think of a reason why a V brake would be better. But look, disc brakes, they offer a pretty good amount of stopping power, and for a bike that has a top speed of around 20 miles per hour, I think these brakes are honestly fine for that. Now, the brake levers here are equipped with motor inhibitors. So it's gonna be this little wire, this little wire right here, this one. And whenever I depress the brake levers on this, just a little bit, it's going to instantly cut power to the motor, ensuring that I have the shortest possible stopping distance, which is gonna be really important for this bike, again, because it does have a cadence sensor, right? So like why that matters is like, let's say I have to make an emergency stop. There's like a car in front of me, whatever, and I gotta slam on the brakes. If I'm, you know, hauling on the bike here, I got the motor activated. If I didn't have motor inhibitors, maybe I would hit the brakes and the motor would stay active, and I'd be fighting against the motor as well as like trying to slow the bike down. So basically, you know, motor inhibitors, they cut power to the motor, and it just makes sure that you're not fighting against it. Also, very impressed with the time that Rattan has taken with the wire management here. You know, look, I love it when companies wrap pretty much all their wires up. You know, they've got 2 big bundles. They go into one big bundle here, feeds into the down tube. Just makes for a really clean, elegant look. We got one wire that's outside the down tube. That's okay, not a big deal. But yeah, overall, really good wire management. I appreciate that. Not bad at all. Trying to show you guys the other sides of the bike here. Oh, okay, this thing weighs 45 pounds, by the way, which is actually pretty light. They say on the website this thing weighs 50 pounds. We weighed it with a little, you know, hand scale. We got about 45 and a half pounds. So came in a little bit lighter, the curb weight, than what was actually on the company website. 45 pounds is nice, man. That's pretty light. That's about 10 pounds lighter than the average electric bike that we test. So, you know, that weight savings is going to help with increased range. It's going to help make the bike feel more nimble, and it's going to make it easier to actually pedal when you're not using the pedal assist. So really cool stuff there. For the pedals themselves, speaking of pedaling, these are just kind of standard Wellgo pedals, just aluminum, little kind of knobs there on the top. Nothing too fancy about those. Little plastic chainring guard right here. Not gonna really help protect the chainring in case of like a strike, but it is gonna help keep the chain from popping off towards the outside. So that's gonna help minimize derailments a little bit here. Yep, pretty sweet ride, awesome peeps. Very cool that we're doing a giveaway on this. Just really excited to be able to host that. Anytime we can do a giveaway, man, that's fun, right? All right, so let's talk about the display here on this bike and kind of what we got going on here on the handlebar. So to turn this bike on, it's gonna be a long press of the power button here on the independent button pad. We got the power button, info, turning on the lights, and then up and down arrow. So I'm gonna do a long press of the power button. This thing comes to life. Color LCD screen. Really nice, really dope screen here. I really do like this. Good information. So there's that battery percentage like I was talking about, 81% for the battery, 6.3 miles. So yeah, you know, if we multiply that by 5, again, that's what we're talking about, we get about 30 miles, right? Which is pretty impressive for the throttle only. We also have the current speed right here, and then the wattage right here underneath, which is very, very cool. So I can see exactly how much wattage the motor is actually kicking out. There's also a little bar right here that kind of moves up like a speedometer, like a traditional speedometer on a car. If you want to switch it to that, that's kind of cool. Tripometer right here. We've got the odometer, current pedal assist level goes from 0 to 3. And then that's it. Yeah, throttle is live from 0 miles per hour. So if you hit the throttle right now, the bike will jump away, which is cool. Really, that's how, I mean, I think every throttle should be live from 0 miles per hour. It just makes it so that you can have more control over the bike, especially for a pedal assist bike or for a cadence sensor where there's that delay that we talked about. Having the throttle be live at 0 miles per hour is nice because I can just hit that throttle at like a stoplight, at a crosswalk, and it's gonna instantly start going. Instead of if I was in like top gear, 7th gear, something like that, and I'm at 0 miles per hour, I try to start pedaling, it's gonna take, you know, it's gonna take a second for that cadence sensor to activate. So definitely like that. And they do also have this little phone holder, which is kind of cool. So if you do want to throw your phone in there, you can just plop it down right there, cinch it down, and then you're good to go. So awesome peeps. I think the only thing left to do now is take the Rattan Challenger Plus for a test ride and show you this bike in action. So here we go. All right, awesome peeps. That is pretty much it for the Rattan Challenger Plus electric bike review. In summary, this bike starts for $999.99, or we'll just round it up to $1,000 for ease of use. That's gonna be at an entry-level price point, but there's some interesting stuff about this bike, some interesting tech like we talked about. It's got the 350-watt geared hub motor here in the back, 500 watts of peak power, 45 Newton meters of torque, and it's got that battery, remember the 10.4 amp hour, 36 volt battery. And with those claims that Rattan was making about 50 miles of range with the throttle only because of their Ipass technology, from the brief tests that we did, like we talked about in the main review, I mean, that might be entirely possible if you're using the throttle on, you know, not full throttle, maybe like halfway, because we estimated that we would have gotten about 30 miles like we talked about with the throttle only. So that's still pretty impressive. Not really sure exactly what's going on with that, but hey, look, we'll take it, whatever. So look, for the giveaway for the Challenger Plus electric bike, awesome peeps, we're going to go back to Gleam for this. There's going to be descriptions or a link in the description to go to our website and then to Gleam, and we'll talk about all the ways to enter. Basically, you know, we're going to give you guys options like for you can like, comment, and sub for this video. You can comment on a different video, daily entries, comment on Facebook, share our Facebook post, tons of different stuff to give you guys just a lot of different options to get extra entries if you want them. And one last thing I do want to say is I think this bike is going to be a really good choice for anybody who wants a good all-around electric bike, something that's going to work as a commuter, because again, with this increased range from the Ipass tech, this is going to be a fairly competent commuter, especially because it does have the front suspension there as well, 7-speed cassette in the back. I mean, you can commute with this thing. You can also take it on some light trails because it's got the front suspension. Again, it's got some knobby tires here, 26 inch by 2.1 inch. I mean, this is a good all-around bike at a pretty fair price, like we talked about, of $999. So look, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.